I am very excited today. We're continuing talking about the new InScribe anthology that's coming out in September. And that anthology, of course, is called Creativity and Chaos, Artistic Endeavors for Trying Times. And I'm really excited and happy today to be talking to Scott Fitzsimmons, who has a piece in the anthology. So welcome, Scott.
Thank
Good.
you so much.
Yes, I'm really glad that we worked out our technical difficulties we were having
Yes.
here. And it's really good to have you today. So your piece is it's a memoir, I guess. It's
Yep.
it's based on your own life, and it's called Writing Blind. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about that piece and how it fits into the theme, I guess, of the anthology?
For sure. Well, I had lost my sight after a cancer battle back in 2019. So I'm cancer free, which is awesome, but I don't have any sight anymore. Now, I was suggested to write a book about what I've gone through, and I'm still working on that because it's quite a process when you're blind. And that's kind of what inspired me to write this because I have done some writing in the past, and I always enjoyed grammar, punctuation, and making sure things are the way they should be.
Mhm.
So that was something I wanted to try and do. And this is where the chaos comes in, is that it's not as easy as one would think. There's a lot of things for blind people to use different programs and things like that, but there's a lot of little things that you have to learn that are different from the past and make things a little harder to go into that. So I've tried to find a way to do some writings. I've been a part of InScribe now for almost a year.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to see different ways that I can start this new craft. And so it's something that I've been working at and I have to get help with on a lot of occasions, but don't we all?
Yes. Yeah, and I'm really intrigued. I know another lady who's lost her sight, well, many years ago, and she is a writer. And I often thought, like, it's one thing to think, oh yeah, there's programs you can use, speech to text or Dragon Speak or whatever the case might be, but
Hmm.
to have to rely totally on just what you're hearing and kind of your memory, like I think that's what I
Hmm.
really find challenging. What if, yeah, so what do you think?
Absolutely. Well,
Mhm.
and memory, for a blind person is probably your most um, I guess you could say most important asset. Even I put my phone down as I was getting ready to do this, and I didn't know where it was. And then all of a sudden, I had to remember, oh, yes, I put this over here. Sure enough, that's where it was.
Yeah.
Because again, you don't have that to be able to go find it. So there's a lot of little things that come in, like memory, knowing where the couch is, where the chairs are at the kitchen table. There's a lot of little things that make life a lot easier if you can remember where they are.
Yes, yes. And so
Yeah.
in the terms of writing, like, to be able to remember what, if you want to go back and change something around or edit,
Hmm.
I can imagine that that's very challenging.
Well, and I'm not even there yet. It's one of the things that I've been learning from the beginning of this process is just to get the information out.
Yeah.
And that's great. I was able to dictate it and get all the things in there. Um, but editing afterwards has been the biggest challenge,
Mhm.
learning how to use the different programs. And I tend to be someone that likes to work until I figure it out. And there's been more than a few times where frustration rears its ugly head in
Yeah.
this because I've spent half an hour the other day thinking I was doing something right and it didn't work.
Oh,
And so it's just one of those trial and error things, but there's a lot more error, uh, or
yeah.
there's as much error as trial.
Right. And I can also imagine that I mean, like you said, you rely on others to help you and stuff, but there's probably a certain part of you that is like that you want to be independent and you don't want to
Hmm.
feel like you're always relying on somebody to help you with things.
Well, in part of the book that I'm writing, I spent a long time dictating a bunch of chapters, and then after that, it's finding someone that can take the time to do that. And I have found somebody now, but
Mhm.
again, that's taken 2 years from the beginning of this process to get here where we're through the first 20% of the book. And this is just the first edit. So
Yeah.
again, I'm learning patience in this, and different things happen in my life that make it harder to do this. The nefarious people that try to get into your computers or into your phones uh, to take over and steal your information are using voiceover mode
Uh,
as their way in. So a lot of places are changing the security. So there's just constant things that are changing. Like if I get to know an app and they change something around, I have to figure it out again. And
yeah.
often it's not that hard, but it's just one of those things that does cause things to be a little bit more challenging when going through the process of trying to write as a
Yeah.
blind person.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you also like you have a background in broadcasting, is that correct?
Correct. Yes, I was a broadcaster, DJ, announcer. I used to do interviews all the time, which I love. And yeah, I've been a program director for I was 15 years before I went to the hospital. So yeah, I've done that, and I do voiceover work now, and I've worked at the station again to
Hmm.
make sure that I, keep sharp, and I enjoy it because I
Yeah.
still have the voice.
Yeah, yeah, you do. And I was thinking like to me, I think there's maybe a certain amount of crossover between that. Like you said, you do interviews and you're using your voice. So between like writing and sort of being a journalist or a broadcaster in that, like do you find there's any kind of sort of crossover between the two?
There are in some ways. I found when I finished this writing, that's called Writing Blind,
Hmm.
I kind of realized the irony that I am now still using my voice, but it's a different voice. I considered calling it a different voice because now I still use my voice to dictate into the phone or into the computer, and then we edit after that. But it's still me using my voice, just in a different way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's cool. And so one of the things that's kind of been coming out in a lot of the interviews that I've been doing is sort of this correlation between the creative process as a therapy tool, if you will, or a way of, making sense of life and the chaos of life. Um, and then how often that is, because of the chaos we are inspired to, it's often where some of our best creative stuff comes from, so it's sort of a give and take. Do you have any thoughts on that sort of aspect of what you've gone through?
Well, absolutely. It's been something where I've been able to take a look back at some things that have gone on in my life, even before I lost my sight, and being able to dictate them onto the page, as you will, and find different ways to share these stories, because that's where I'm kind of moving in my life, is that this hasn't been easy, but I'm going to push through, and I'm not going to let it stop me. Not every day is easy, but when you take a look back at a lot of the different things that have happened in my life, I feel like I've been almost prepared for this. And the things that I've gone through in the past, while not as hard, have definitely gotten me to a point where each little step is a little bit easier, and you're more prepared for something that comes along with that.
Yeah, and I find too, it's like part of, sometimes our best growth as a human being or even as a Christian comes through those difficult times, so
Absolutely.
yeah.
And that's exactly what I've been doing with this, and even going through the book over and over again, you start to see more things that have had an impact, and learning from that.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, I've enjoyed looking back. I have a tendency to have a pretty good memory of the things that I've had go through in the past. And this one, it's a little different because there's no timeline on it. There's no, oh, you're going to move past this or you will recover from this.
No.
It's more of just, okay, how am I going to get used to that phrase, the new normal,
Right.
because I don't know that I'll be getting my sight back. I'm prepared that I won't, but I'm still going to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And I will praise him, even if he doesn't.
Yes. Yeah.
I will praise him. So that's where I'm trying to focus on going through this, even through the chaos.
Yeah. Well, I have a friend who's a piano tuner who was born blind, so he doesn't know anything different, but he
Hmm.
said, um, well, I'm amazed when I see him. He can walk down a hallway and he clicks he does this snapping thing and he knows exactly where he is. Like I said, you're like a
That's
bat.
awesome.
you know but I think you had mentioned like how your memory, you have to really rely on maybe that becoming keener. And if we always hear about people that are blind, their hearing becomes really keen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Well,
there
and I
are
know,
ways to live a fulfilled life. It just is different, as you said.
yes, yes, it is. And it's funny because you mentioned the whole aspect of the hearing sound. It's
Hmm.
something that one of the artists that has been a favorite of mine, Ginny Owens,
Mm.
she's been blind since she was 3 years old, and she's had a great singing career. She was a music teacher, and now she's a singer, and she's actually a pretty good singer at that.
Yeah.
And so she put out some videos before I was blind talking about the different things that she does, how she gets around as a blind person. And one of the things was listening to the different sound as you walk past the door. When you are walking in a hallway, you don't hear the echoes as much, or you don't hear as many room noises as you do when you walk past an open door, because oh, okay, that's a big room. There's something else going on in there.
Hmm.
And I went to a family camp just a couple weekends ago, and I was trying to do something on my own, go to the bathroom from the dining hall, and
Yeah.
I'm walking, and I could tell I was going in the wrong direction. And I'm like, wait a minute, just stop and listen. And I
Yeah.
listened, and somebody walked up the wood steps to the bathroom. I'm like, oh, that's where it is. And so I changed course and I found the stairs. It was pretty cool. So using the other senses can definitely be a benefit, and you're not wrong that having one sight gone definitely allows your other senses to become more in tune.
Yes. So what about in terms of the creative process? Like you're doing some writing. Is there any other creative things that you've taken up or that are of interest to you?
I do like to do um, podcasting.
Hmm.
I do like listening to radio. I've been in radio for over 20 years. So it's something that doesn't go away from me. So I listen to other radio stations just to hear how they're doing. I love listening to music just to hear how they pieced it together.
Yeah.
I would love to produce a music album at some point, because I can't necessarily do it, obviously, but I do hear what I do like, and I've been helpful in some of the processes of a couple of different albums,
Oh,
and I think I did okay with it. I did it pretty well, and so that's something that I would like to do at some point, is just to sit with people and say, okay, well, yeah, maybe add this, or maybe throw a little echo in here, or
yeah.
and so I've been learning a little bit more about the processes and the terminology of the production, so you can communicate to an engineer doing stuff like that. So I know that that may not happen, but I still would love to see that happen.
Yeah.
One of the things that I want to do is listen to poetry. I love hearing people speak. So I don't know a lot about poetry, so getting a part of InScribe sure did open up the opportunity for me to learn about these things. Again, terminology, I have no idea. I don't know what is what, and I'm learning what those different things are. And so I start writing different things and seeing how it comes out. I've been working a little bit on some devotionals,
Hmm.
and do that as well. And I do lead worship at church, and I preach whenever I get an opportunity with Pulpit Supply, or even at our own church.
Hmm.
So I try to use my voice and use my hearing, and all the other senses in different ways. But I also wouldn't mind being a food critic.
Oh, and
Use my taste.
different, yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I love a good steak and finding those different tastes and finding out what's good and what I don't like. It's been interesting for sure.
Oh, that's really cool. Well, it's been really nice talking to you, Scott. I'm sure
Thank you.
we could talk for hours, I'm sure, but
Oh yeah,
I'm probably gonna have to say see ya. But thank you so much for joining me today. And I'm
you're
really
welcome.
looking forward to the anthology coming out and reading your piece and all the other pieces. I'm think it's gonna be a really great a really great book.
I do too. That's awesome. Thank
Thank
you very much.
Welcome.